Ramil was a simple street vendor in the crowded city of Manila, walking barefoot through the busy streets every morning with his basket of balut and peanuts. His clothes were worn, his face sunburned from endless days under the scorching heat, yet he always carried a small smile. Every day, he sang while selling, softly at first, just to keep his heart alive amid the chaos of car horns, yelling, and rushing crowds. People rarely noticed him, but sometimes, a stranger would stop, mesmerized by the depth of his voice, a sound filled with pain and quiet hope. His singing was his escape, his way of dreaming beyond the poverty that chained him. Ramil lived in a small wooden shack at the edge of the city with his younger sister, Liza, who was frail and always coughing. Her illness had worsened over the years, and every peso Ramil earned went to her medicine. She would often tell him, "One day, Kuya, the world will hear you sing." He would laugh softly and say, "Maybe in another life." But deep down, he wished it could be true. That evening, rain poured over the city. Ramil, soaked to the bone, refused to go home until he sold the last of his peanuts. The streets were almost empty when he saw a small child crying under a store roof. He handed the boy a peanut bag and began to sing softly, hoping to comfort him. His voice echoed in the empty streets, blending with the sound of raindrops. A foreign tourist nearby recorded the scene on his phone, touched by the sincerity of Ramil's voice. Ramil didn't even notice, he simply sang until his basket was empty. When he returned home, Liza was waiting by the window, smiling weakly. "You're famous already, Kuya," she teased, giggling as he entered dripping wet. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Maybe one day." He didn't know that night would change his entire life. The next morning, the streets were buzzing, not with customers but with whispers. "Have you seen the viral video?" one vendor said. "The street singer in the rain. It's everywhere." Ramil looked confused until a young man showed him the video on his phone. It was him, singing under the rain, holding his basket, smiling despite the storm. Millions of views. Thousands of comments from around the world calling him, the voice of the streets. Ramil couldn't believe it. People were writing things like, "This man deserves the world," and, "His voice touched my soul." Even local news channels started mentioning his name. Liza watched with shining eyes, her heart swelling with pride. For the first time in years, hope filled their small home. Over the next few days, reporters began visiting their neighborhood. Some wanted interviews, others wanted him to sing live. He was shy, humble, always smiling nervously and saying, "I'm just a vendor who loves to sing." But one morning, something unexpected happened. A call came from an unfamiliar number. A woman's voice said, "Hello, is this Ramil de la Cruz? We're calling from Philippines Got Talent 2025. We saw your viral video. We'd love for you to audition." Ramil froze, his basket dropping to the floor. His heart raced as Liza grabbed his arm, shouting with joy, "Kuya. This is it. This is your dream." Tears welled in his eyes. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had never even imagined stepping on a stage that big, let alone performing for judges and cameras. But he knew this was a chance, maybe his only one, to change their lives. That night, he sat by Liza's bedside, holding her hand. "Do you think I can really do it?" he asked softly. She smiled through her tired eyes and whispered, "You've already done it, Kuya. You just have to show them who you are." He looked out the window, watching the stars above the city, and made a silent promise to his parents in heaven. Tomorrow, he would begin preparing for the biggest moment of his life. The poor vendor from the streets of Manila was about to walk onto the stage that could make the whole world finally listen. The day of the audition finally arrived. Ramil woke up before sunrise, his hands trembling as he packed his small bag with a white shirt, the cleanest one he owned, and an old pair of jeans. Liza had stayed up all night sewing the torn pocket and ironing it carefully, whispering prayers under her breath. When he looked at her, she smiled weakly and said, "Kuya, when you walk on that stage, don't think about the judges. Just think about singing for me." Her words gave him strength. He kissed her forehead, took a deep breath, and left for the city arena, where thousands of people were already lined up to audition. As he stood in the long queue surrounded by dancers, magicians, and singers with expensive clothes and instruments, he felt small and out of place. But every time he thought about Liza, his fear melted away. When his turn finally came, he stepped onto the massive stage, the bright lights almost blinding him. The audience murmured when they saw his simple clothes and worn-out slippers. One of the judges, a tall man with a serious face, asked, "Tell us your name and what you do." Ramil swallowed hard and replied, "My name is Ramil de la Cruz. I sell peanuts and balut on the streets, but I love to sing." Some people in the crowd chuckled softly, but the female judge leaned forward with a curious expression. "What will you sing for us today?" she asked kindly. He took a shaky breath and said, "A song for my sister." Then, the music began. The moment Ramil opened his mouth, the room fell silent. His voice was raw yet powerful, filled with emotions too deep to hide. Every word carried pain, love, and endless struggle. His trembling hands steadied as he sang about sacrifice, about chasing dreams through tears, about never giving up even when life beats you down. The audience, which had been skeptical moments earlier, slowly stood up one by one. Tears rolled down faces. The strict judge who hadn't smiled all day leaned back in his chair, visibly moved. When the song ended, there was a moment of stillness, as if everyone needed to breathe again. Then the hall erupted in applause. The crowd chanted his name, and Ramil bowed his head, overwhelmed. One of the judges stood up and said, "You reminded us why this show exists, to find real talent, real heart." But before Ramil could even respond, something unexpected happened. The female judge stood up and began walking toward the golden buzzer. Ramil's eyes widened, his heart pounding so hard he could barely breathe. The audience gasped, cameras zoomed in, and in that split second of silence, her hand slammed down on the golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded from the ceiling, showering the stage in a rain of glitter. Ramil dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. The crowd roared, chanting and cheering louder than ever before. The judges rushed toward him, hugging him, saying, "You deserve this." He couldn't speak, he just cried, thinking about Liza watching from home. At that same moment, in the hospital room miles away, Liza screamed with joy as she saw her brother on television covered in gold confetti. Nurses and patients surrounded her, clapping and crying along. She whispered to the screen, "You did it, Kuya." Ramil later said he didn't even remember what he felt on stage, it was like a dream. The next morning, every news outlet and social media platform exploded with clips of his golden buzzer moment. From street vendor to star, the voice that touched the nation. Everywhere he went, people recognized him, asking for photos, cheering his name. But fame didn't change him. He still visited the streets where he used to sing, thanking the people who had once bought his peanuts. That night, as he sat beside Liza's bed, he showed her the golden buzzer clip again. She cried, holding his hand tightly, whispering, "You made the world listen." Ramil smiled through tears and said, "No, we did it, Liza. We did it together." The city lights outside glowed brighter than ever, and for the first time, he felt that maybe dreams really do come true, even for someone who once sang to the rain just to survive another day. The weeks after the golden buzzer moment felt like a whirlwind for Ramil. Suddenly, the poor street vendor who once sang for coins was now on magazine covers, TV interviews, and trending all over the internet. Everyone wanted to know his story, the boy who rose from poverty to national fame. But while others saw fame, Ramil saw responsibility. He spent every free moment with his sister, Liza, and promised her that no matter how big the stage got, he would never forget who he was or where he came from. Every day before rehearsals, he still bought peanuts from the same old supplier who had helped him survive through hard times. "You're famous now," the old man joked one day, "but you still act like you're selling on the street." Ramil just smiled. "Because that's who I'll always be," he replied softly. As the competition moved closer to the semi-finals, the pressure grew heavier. The other contestants were professionals, trained singers with years of experience. Ramil had nothing but his heart and his voice. During practice, he sometimes doubted himself, thinking, "What if I'm not good enough?" But every time fear crept in, he remembered Liza's voice saying, "You've already made it, Kuya." Those words pushed him forward. On the night of the semi-finals, the arena was packed. Cameras flashed, the crowd roared, and the judges sat ready to see if his first performance had been luck or true talent. The lights dimmed, and he stepped onto the stage in a simple black shirt. He began singing a song dedicated to his late parents, a heartfelt ballad about sacrifice and love. His voice trembled at first but grew stronger with each verse, as if his parents were standing there, guiding him. When he hit the final note, silence filled the room, followed by thunderous applause. People in the audience were wiping their tears, even the toughest judge stood to clap. Ramil advanced to the grand finals, and the entire Philippines celebrated. In the final week before the championship night, Ramil spent most of his time in the hospital beside Liza. Her condition had improved with better treatment, but she still looked fragile. "Win or lose, Kuya, I'm already proud of you," she whispered. He held her hand tightly and said, "I'm doing this for us, for every night we went hungry, for every song I sang just to keep hope alive." The night before the finals, he couldn't sleep. He looked out the window and prayed quietly, asking for strength, not for victory, but for the courage to sing with truth one last time. The grand finale of Philippines Got Talent 2025 arrived. The stage was glowing brighter than ever, the crowd larger than anything he had seen before. Ramil stood backstage, holding a small necklace that belonged to his mother, and closed his eyes. When his name was announced, the audience cheered wildly. He stepped out slowly, took a deep breath, and began to sing a song titled, "My Sister's Dream." It was written straight from his heart, each lyric telling their story, the days of struggle, the nights of hunger, the dreams they held onto through tears and rain. His voice carried every emotion he had ever felt, filling the entire arena with unfiltered honesty. By the time he sang the final line, "I sang so she could see the stars," the entire audience was on its feet, clapping, shouting, crying. When the time came to announce the winner, everyone held their breath. The host smiled and said, "The winner of Philippines Got Talent 2025 is Ramil de la Cruz." Confetti exploded once again, gold raining from the sky as Ramil fell to his knees in disbelief. The judges hugged him, the audience roared his name, and tears streamed down his face. Moments later, he ran to the side of the stage where Liza was waiting in her wheelchair. She stood up, weak but smiling, and they embraced tightly. "You did it, Kuya," she whispered through tears. "We did it," he replied, holding her close. The cameras captured the emotional moment, the poor vendor who once sang on the streets now holding a trophy under golden lights, his sister by his side. As the music played and confetti continued to fall, Ramil looked up at the sky, whispering, "Thank you, Mama, Papa. Your son finally made it." That night, millions watched across the country, crying, smiling, and believing once again that no dream is too small, and no voice is too poor to be heard.